So we've managed to come onto Buffelshoek boundary, which is where I thought we would be, and we stopped to turn off to listen, and as we were stopping to listen, up the road came walking exactly what we were looking for. So there is our Birmingham boy striding along the road, and I thought it might be somewhere in this area, and luckily enough we've managed to find it. Now it looks like it's either in Suku or Nhenha. I can't see nicely just yet. It's one of the two of them. They've got those kind of beautiful big manes and a little bit more of an elongated face than Tinyo and Mfumo. Also much cleaner faces than both of those two individuals. Both Tinyo and Mfumo have lots of scars all over the face, whereas as you can see on this individual, his face is not nearly as battered as what those two are. But he is looking magnificent. Isn't it beautiful with that morning light that is just coming through the mane as he's kind of striding up towards us. Now I'm hoping that he's just going to come past. I'm going to have to just move the car a little bit because the way I'm parked is keeping him in the road. So I'm going to, well, it's going to stop him from walking up the road. So I do apologize. The view might not be as good for now, but I just want to make space and let him at least kind of come along. But look at that. There's the sun rising, male lion walking towards you. It doesn't get much better than that, I'm afraid. That is as good as it gets if you ever want a sort of scenic picture of Africa. But it is Nhenha as far as I can see. Yes, it is Nhenha. So it's very cool to have him here. Nhenha is my favorite of the Birmingham boys. I absolutely love looking at this lion. He's a very pretty individual. And you can see there's the little equals mark over his nose. So for those of you who don't know him, that's his little equal sign that tells us that it is him. Now he's just coming past the vehicle. You can see he's just giving me a little bit of a look. He is a massive individual. Huge and big feet, absolutely incredible. There is not many things that are better than seeing a male lion walking past in that way. So hopefully he is going to roar. He's up, he's moving, he's scent marking, which means that he's in a position where he kind of is sort of advertising his territory, and so hopefully he'll let out one more big booming roar for us. Now what I'm going to try and do is just get another kind of walk by like what we just did. So I'm going to go through onto the fire break and then try and catch him coming over the ridge on the other side. It should be absolutely beautiful. Whether or not it works and he stays on the road, well, that's always anyone's guess. Careful, Ferg, trees in the way. Now he's walking quite quickly, so I'm going to have to do this pretty sharply. Let's try and get around. Now he's off to my right hand side and he's still moving along the road, so I don't know if I'm going to get this right, but let's try. I think we've overtaken him now, which is good news. So we can try and just get around through here without damaging Rusty, because Rusty we've given a hard time enough already. So here we go. This is what I wanted to do. Now it's going to be a bit of a gamble because he's potentially going to go off the road at some point. So what I'm doing is kind of hoping that he's just going to walk in this early morning light and he's just going to stay with us. But I'm just going to try and get myself into that position there, and then we're going to just slowly reverse with him. Daniel, you say you would have to take your heart pills if he walked past you. Well, Daniel, it is quite something when they walk past you. It's an amazing kind of feeling. They look at you and there's just this sort of, look at that view though. Isn't that spectacular with the morning light over the rolling hills with the big male lion? Well, like I say, Daniel, it is quite amazing when they walk past you. Their size and just the way that they look is so intimidating. It is kind of one of those things where you think, please don't eat me as they come past. But we're lucky enough that our lions, and in particular the Birmingham boys, are very relaxed these days and they don't really stress too much about us being in the way or being around, and so generally they're actually quite nice. Now, Ferg, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down a bit because they're going to come up onto this apex, and it should be very pretty as he does, although I think he's already gone over the apex, unfortunately. But how's that for an orange sky and a Birmingham male walking straight towards us? That is very cool. It's not every day that you get sort of eye level with a male lion as he walks towards you. Beautiful. And he is one of the more beautiful of the Birminghams. At the end of the day, he's got a nice big mane, and they've developed so much. I'm sure Nikki must not recognize them. You know, when Nikki and Scott were last year, these guys had little puffy manes. They weren't big at all, and now they're these monstrous male lions with massive manes and really are very impressive. And their reign is kind of growing and expanding, and they've done very well. At the end of the day, even though they are obviously male lions that have got a situation where there are, you know, not too many sort of in the way of competition, but they've still expanded nicely and kept all of their cubs safe, which is amazing to see. So it's been really good to kind of follow these guys' progress over the last little bit. Now, I'm thinking that he's probably in all likelihood going to go to Tamboti Dam, which is just behind me here. I'm hoping that he was coming from the north. Early this morning, I heard him roaring, or one of them roaring, and it sounded like a lot further away than where he is now. So I'm hoping what his movement has been is maybe he's going east-west, I'm not sure, or hopefully he's coming from the north and he's going to come south and turn down Mvubu Road and start heading towards the dam. But isn't that spectacular? Look at this sort of orange in the sky behind him and the dust as he sort of moves and flicks his feet. There's little clouds of puffs of dust as he goes. It is absolutely beautiful. I mean, he stands pretty tall. His head will be about the height of the door, which I'll show you a little bit later. So he kind of stands at the same height as the top part of the vehicle, the sort of dashboard area. That's where the top of his mane will be, but he's not as big as the car, that's for sure. And he's also, in terms of his length, nowhere near as long as what this vehicle is. He's probably from the tip of the vehicle to where I'm sitting, that would be about his length. Hopefully when he comes down the road now, I'll try and park again and we'll get him to walk by and we'll kind of pull out a little bit so that you can see. Look, he's scenting the air. You see how he's sniffing? And the good news is he's sniffing to the south, which is fantastic. It means maybe he's going to go that direction. But we'll try and see him kind of coming past, and then you can get a better idea of just how large he is in comparison to the vehicle. Okay, but don't go that way now. That's the wrong way. Oh, that is beautiful. You can see my reversing skills need work. It's a bit of a wiggly track that's coming down the road at the moment. So whoever drives here next is going to think somebody that had had far too much to drink drove here, because it's a very windy track that is coming down. But it is the way when you are reversing and kind of trying to keep an eye on a lion, as well as Ferg's sort of camera so that I can help him a little bit, as well as trying to reverse behind me and not crash into anything that might be from the back end. So it's not the easiest thing to reverse with the male lion, but we're managing so far. I think it's going quite well. But this is so cool. It's been a long time since I've spent time with these guys. Ginger, you're wondering, has any of the male lions ever sprayed me? So Ginger, no, I've never been sprayed by a male lion. I've been close. I had one that sprayed on the side of my car, but luckily it didn't quite make it all the way to where I was. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this little walk by for all of you guys, so you guys can see what it's like to be very close to a male lion. He's going to be a little smaller because I'm higher up now. So you can see he's coming, and you can see now that if you look where my shoulder height is, as he comes past, the top of his mane would be about my shoulder height. So it's difficult in this sort of perception, but and I'm raised on top of the road, so I mean, he is massive. He is not a small cat at all. He is very, very big, and hopefully he's going to let out a roar at some point. So you can see that he is not the smallest. Now, what I'll do a little bit later is I'll show you a little kind of size comparison between him and us once we kind of settle down, or if he crosses north, or whatever the case may be. If we're not with him anymore, then I can show you really how nicely or what sort of size he is, because I had a sighting with the Birminghams the other day. Well, it's not the other day, it was quite a while ago, but I had a sighting with them, and one of them sniffed the antenna at the back. There we go. You see he's going north now, so that was our last shot. He's probably going to go lie at Tamboti Dam, which is right here. I was hoping he was going to go the other way and not this way, but unfortunately he seems as though he's going to go northwards. No, coming back to the road. Good boy. He's obviously heard my wishes and is now going to come back this side. Let's see where he goes from here. It would be so nice if he turns to the left and goes down towards our dam and towards the dam in front of the lodge and spends the day in that area. And get him again this evening, because it really is something when they let out these big belting roars. If you're close by, it is the best sound in the world, and I'm hoping that he's going to do it again this morning and that we will hear this big booming roar. Michael, you say we've spent countless hours with the Birmingham boys, but every time you see them, you're blown away. Well, Michael, I think we have spent a lot of time with them, but not recently. If we're honest, it's been few and far between the sightings of these Birminghams lately. It's been tough to kind of find them, and they've been on their own little kind of expeditions to all parts of the sort of reserve, and so we haven't really had much time with them over the past few months. I certainly don't think we've had very much time with them, and I haven't spent that long with any of them really, and so they are impressive. I think the fact that we're not seeing them as often means that we just kind of are that much more impressed by their looks and what they kind of look like. Now, at some point, I do need to tell everybody else that we did find a male lion, so I will have to radio that in just now. So I do apologize about that. Yeah, Rex, if you can copy me, I've got this male lion. He's mobile west on the Buffelshoek boundary. He's just south of Tamboti Dam now, still mobile west. Now we'll hopefully be able to hear the game drive radio, because my game drive has been giving me a bit of trouble over the last few days. It's got a little connection issue, so I have to wiggle the connection to be able to hear them. There we go, but a scent marking, so maybe this will be a roar that we will get shortly. Let's try and get our shadow out of that. There we go, he's just shaking his head as he goes. How cool is this? Come on, boy, up the hill. It's got a nice hill to climb now. Now, interestingly enough, this is very cool, because I've just heard on the radio now that it sounds like a nice herd of buffalo are at Sydney's Dam, and the way that he's going is straight towards Sydney's Dam. So maybe that's where he's going and why he's going this way. Maybe he's heard the buffalo and he knows the buffalo are around and he's going to head up that side. It's a long way still to go, but he is heading in that direction, and maybe we're in for an epic morning if the Birminghams do pick up on that there are some buffalo around, or particularly this individual, and who knows, maybe there's another one that isn't far away, or the Nkahuma Pride, or something like that. So it's worth us trying to kind of just stay with him, try and keep up with him and see where he goes. He is ambling in the right direction, and these guys have such incredible sense that maybe he's heard or smelt this this buffalo herd from a long way away, and he's now heading in that direction to go and start hunting them. At the end of the day, he's not actually very full at all, and so I'm pretty sure he will be able to try and go and hunt. Now, while we follow him and see where he is going to go and whether he leads us towards that buffalo herd, let's go back across to Scotty and see how he's progressing with that leopard tracking. Well, look, you can see the buffalo are all here. They're all alert. They've just chased a Birmingham over the road. So the Birminghams are right here. They're not far away. But when they chased one over the road, another Birmingham popped up and chased a leopard off a kill, and the leopard ran away. And so they've now got an impala kill on our left. They've killed a buffalo apparently just to the north of Sydney's Dam as well. And then now there's another two Birminghams closing in. So all four seem to be here. There's a leopard in amongst this as well. Where the leopard's gone, I don't know. The leopard just got chased quickly, and we're trying to see if we can find it again. And obviously the lions are around, and the buffalo are very aware that there are lions about. So we're going to just try and see. You can see the buffalo kind of moving forward, noses to the air. There's Tinyo has just gone past us and gone into the thicket on my left hand side. So I want to try and just get in there and follow him as he tries to get towards the others. Now, Nhenha is coming from the top right. He's quite far behind us still, and we left him there going into the bush and trying to come round to this side. So I think he might arrive here fairly shortly. And if they've got a buffalo kill already and they've stolen now an impala from a leopard, I'm not sure how long they're going to be in this area or how much they want to hunt these buffalo. I don't think very much at all, given that Tinyo is just walking away in this direction. Now, the problem is that we have a lot of gremlins here, so that's going to make life very difficult, and we're going to have a few issues if they go down into the drainage, which I think is where Tinyo is gone. The last time I saw him was somewhere in this direction, moving in towards the drainage line. So let's just have a little quick look. But it's all happening. There they are. So there you can see one of them in front, or two of them I think are in front. So that's where the leopard was, and that's where they chased the leopard, and they chased it kind of north or southward, should I say. And so that's why if Scotty can check on my southern side, maybe he'll be lucky and find that leopard on that side. I have no idea which leopard it is, but the Birminghams are here, buffalo are here, leopard is here, and so it's going to be an insane morning as things go out. We know the Birminghams have a kind of buffalo sort of knack and they're able to grab buffalo at will almost. And so I wonder if they're going to try and head in that direction. So there you can see it looks like Tinyo that is coming towards us now. I'm not sure who the other one is that's with him. It could be Mfumo. I don't know. All I can see is the back of him at this stage, but the mane looks quite light, so I would imagine that it is Mfumo in that area. Now Tinyo is coming back up towards the buffalo. I wonder if he's going to potentially start hunting them again. And if Nhenha arrives, that's definitely going to go into a whole different thing. I think if Nhenha's here, we might find a situation that they might start hunting again. You can see he's lying down now, so let's just see how this goes. I'm hesitant to go forward because I'm a bit worried about gremlins, but let's try just so we can see if we can get a better view and try and see what's going on. So bear with us if there's a bit of picture breakup or sound breakup. I do apologize, but let's have a look and see what's going on here. I'm going to try and stay as high as I can because at the end of the day we don't want to lose signal, and I know down in the dip itself is going to be very difficult. So let's try from here, hopefully still have some semblance of reception. So Tinyo on the right for sure. It looks like Mfumo that is coming out. Is it Mfumo or is it Nsuku? Difficult to say. No, it's Nsuku that's there. So Nsuku down at the bottom, Tinyo here. I think Mfumo must be on the buffalo kill still, and Nhenha still coming. So this is very, very cool, and just goes to show that sometimes it's worth kind of following up on your sort of audio that you get, because I wasn't 100% sure that they were even inside Vuyatela, but as you can see, they're all here, and this sort of chase of this leopard has now meant that they've managed to find not only a small meal, but they've also kind of got a situation where everybody's banding together now, and maybe that's why they were roaring, is because it heard the others were on a kill and it's now roared to try and attract everybody. But this is going to be super cool. The buffalo are not far. They're still right here. They're kind of looking into this thicket and checking things out, and like I say, when Nhenha arrives, maybe the three of them together is going to cause a massive sort of grouping together, and we know the Birminghams are not shy of taking advantage of buffalo, and they might even hunt again, which would be really epic. So we just need to sit tight and hope for the best. So Matt, yes, the other male is walking to find his coalition, so he's trying to see and establish where they are. I'm pretty sure he's heard them either vocalize or he's heard the sort of dying of that buffalo, and he's now kind of coming into this area to try and join the others for food reasons. But when he gets here and they see a massive herd of buffalo, and you find that they then group together and there's three of them, you might just see them hunt again. And the reason why is because they're opportunistic animals. Any chance they can get to hunt, they will take, and they will try and go after that prey item. And buffalo have been a scarce commodity over the last little bit, and so I wouldn't be surprised these guys maybe try their luck once more. Chitwa, you're wondering how close a lion would get to me. Well, we had Nhenha just now, and he walked, I would say, not even a meter from the front of our car and around the side of me and past me, and so it's possible that you find that he would be even closer than that. I've had male lions lie right up against the side of the car where their manes are almost touching the tire just for shade sometimes. So it just depends. It's obviously different on every situation, but these guys know that we're not a threat in any way, and so generally they're actually quite good with us, and they will come quite close, and as long as you don't move too much and don't sort of startle them, then you can get some really close views of them. Of course, with that, we don't drive right up to these male lions and make them kind of pressurize them that they're that close. It's only if they choose to. So like with Nhenha, we kind of just reverse down the road and then we park off the side, and if he wants to come past, he will. Otherwise he'll take a wider berth and go into the bush a little bit. But you find if you just kind of park off and they're walking, then generally they don't mind us and they'll just come right past at a very, very close proximity. But you can see he's now lying down there. I'm pretty sure that this leopard was right by the tree, and it's a pity the leopard couldn't get up into the tree with that kill and take it up to the top. That would have been ideal. Bobby, I have absolutely no idea what these lions' manes feel like, because if you want to put your hand through that mane, you probably will be the last that you ever do and have a situation where you're no longer with us. So In these males, I don't know. In terms of male lions, I've never touched a male lion's mane that is fully grown. I've had young males that have been treated for TB and touched their manes, and it's quite wiry actually. It's not a very fine fur. It's not like a domestic cat that has soft fur. Because of the nature of what they do. I mean, they're not getting bathed and brushed and cared for. You know, they've got dust and they've got blood and they've got all kinds of things that builds up inside their manes, and so you get a situation where nice and sort of straight like you would get on a domestic cat. So, I mean, I'd imagine the big boys are with my once again, which is to be expected where we're sitting. I didn't think we'd even get reception where we are, so I'm very surprised that we have got. There is a little mound that is just in front of me that might get us a little higher, so I might go towards that mound. The problem is that we probably will lose reception if I go forward any further, and the problem is to get to that mound I need to go forward and around a little bit, but it would probably give us a better view of Tinyo, and hopefully we'd have a situation where we would be able to be a little higher, which should give us a better signal story. So let's try it. I mean, it's risky business, but we're all about risk business. So let's try out luck and see what we get. We're all business, exactly. So let's see. Hopefully this works, and hopefully we don't lose all of you. But there's a little bump that I want to get into, which is right here. So this is where I wanted to go, because this is going to get my little antenna a bit higher. There we go. How's that? There we go. So my antenna is now a lot higher, which should mean that my audio and my signal should be better, which is good news. But you can see these boys are full, and it's a pity that they are full, because if we had got here now and they weren't full, we would have had a situation where I promise you there would have been absolute chaos with these buffalo. But we can't rule it out. Like I say, Nhenha hasn't eaten and he's almost on the scene now, and so he might just cause these buffalo to stampede and come down towards us again, and we could see a situation where these lions do hunt. But for now, everybody's resting. Tinyo is trying to deal with the amount of buffalo he's already got inside of his stomach, and hopefully he will be alright. He looks as though he's kind of eaten way too much, and you can see he's breathing very quickly as well. But how impressive are these Birminghams looking? And I honestly think this is the first time I've seen Nsuku on this side of the world since I've been with Djuma and with Safari Live. Lucy, you're wondering if Nsuku is breathing hard because he chased a leopard? Well, this line we're looking at now is Tinyo. So Tinyo is panting like that, not because he chased a leopard, but because his stomach is so distended that it's pushing up on his lungs and is reducing the capacity within his lungs in terms of the amount of air that he can get. Also, digesting protein builds up a massive amount of heat, and therefore he's got a situation where he's trying to cool his body down. But I'm not sure if the leopard is just to our left here, because I see the guys have just gone down to my left and they're looking at something. So maybe just straight down the drainage line could be where the leopard is. You can see the vehicle in amongst that bush over there. So I'm going to try and see if we can reposition and if there is a leopard there and get an update. But potentially there's something going on over that side as well. Now it could be the other male lion that we know that Mfumo is also missing, so he could be down there. But I'll have a little shout with Rexon and just find out if maybe it is there. Either way, exciting stuff, lots happening. So while we kind of see how this all plays out and see where the Nhenha arrives and the buffalo get another assault from the lions, let's go back across to Scotty D and see what his plans are at the moment. Indeed I have. Unfortunately, that leopard gave us a slip. It just became a wall of trees in front of us, and we really struggled to try and find him from there. So what I've done is come back to the Birminghams, who you can see are now very sleepy and are lying right next to the carcass for this leopard. So this leopard's impala, not the leopard carcass. The leopard is fine, don't worry. But just in the grass there, you can see that there is an impala carcass, and so the lions are lying right next to it. They're greedy lions because they've just eaten a buffalo, and yet they're still now trying to steal an impala carcass. But what we're going to do is we're going to sit here, because I have a feeling that this leopard might meander its way back into this area just to come and check if anything is left, and so it's a worthwhile thing just to sit and wait, and particularly because Tinyo seems to have gone back north, the buffalo have gone into Manyeleti, and so there's just this male around, so maybe this other leopard will come back and try and see what's going on. Wild Bill from Idaho, you're wondering if I think I could ever get stuck in a massive thicket. I suppose it's possible to get stuck inside a massive thicket, although I don't think so. I mean, theoretically, if you got in there should be a way out of it. And I mean, sometimes it's a bit tight, and sometimes you get yourself into a bit of a sort of bind, and you've got to do 20,000 point turns to get out again. But if you got in, you should be able to get out in some way. Unless, of course, it's muddy and you get stuck. That's a different story. If you have mud and those kind of things and you end up being stuck in it, that's of course a completely different side of what's going on. So but normally you'll get yourself out. These thickets aren't too bad, and most of the trees that we go into are fairly soft and you can push them over. Lady Starfire, you're asking if I would follow a leopard like I just did with a vehicle full of guests. Most certainly. It would have been a situation where everyone would have had to strap on the helmet and cuddle up nice and tight in the middle of the vehicle, and off we go. So I most certainly have done it with guests before, and I probably would do it again if I had guests on our vehicle. Poor Ferg got slapped by the aerial.
I not count as a guest.
You do count as a guest, Fergus. You do, and I'm sorry that I slapped you with the aerial on a branch. I do apologize, but no, in situations like that, you try your very best to kind of get to see the animal, and if people are in the vehicle, and obviously you can ask. That's the most important thing, is with any time you have guests, is just to ask them, are you guys happy to follow this leopard? If they say yes, then you just prepare them and tell them to brace for impact at any moment, and then normally people will absolutely love it, because it's like a roller coaster ride with dangerous items that get slapped towards you at any second. Plus there's a thrill of a leopard walking through the bush, and you get glimpses of it, so it's all quite exciting. And they're actually the worst ones, to be honest, with guests, and the kind of animal that is hardest on guests has to be wild dogs, particularly if Brent Leo Smith is driving. I would not want to be a guest on the back seat of a vehicle with Brent driving after wild dogs. I feel like that is a death sentence waiting to happen. I'm just joking, of course. Brent flies with these vehicles because he doesn't have to worry so much, but I'm sure with guests he'd be a lot more kind of circumspect. But like I say, it's part of the fun of it. You know, people really get into it. I've had a lot of guests that love the off-roading and really like to kind of get into the thickets and love seeing what these cars can do, as well as being able to then see the animals from doing that. So I suppose it's each to their own. And like I say, as long as you just have a situation where you are communicating what you're doing and telling people and asking if it's okay, then normally it's quite fine. But that is one very, very sleepy Birmingham lion. At the moment, he's probably a situation where he's full from a buffalo. He's found himself another little carcass, which in a way is disappointing. Now, I know you might find this odd, but I think it would have been really epic to have found this male leopard with this carcass here, and it would have given us a great opportunity to try and just work on this leopard and try and get him habituated with the carcass. So one vehicle at a time, just kind of keep coming in, use the spotlight at night, and I think we would have got some amazing sightings of him. I think he just seems to be okay with one vehicle. When it was just us starting to follow him, he stopped running and he was just kind of ambling along, and he wasn't too bad. So I think if we had come here and we had found him with this carcass, we would have had a situation where maybe, just maybe, we would have been able to spend a day or two with him and just kind of get him a little bit more relaxed. But anyway, that's hindsight, and then these things can't be helped, because no one can predict the 3 Birmingham males arriving out of nowhere and chasing them all off. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic, but it's just a shame, because I was hoping that leopard, particularly because we don't know who it is, and particularly because we're not 100% sure, would have stayed, and we would have been able to get some nice views of it and try and actually see it. But at least a view of it is better than no view whatsoever, so at least we got a sneaky glimpse, and who's to say we would have even found it had we not had the lions chase him. The thing is, though, is that I actually, funny enough, was on my way here, so even if I hadn't found that Birmingham male to start with, my next port of call was to come and check around this fire break area, and it would have been interesting if we would have been able to see that leopard, because the fire break is very close. Actually, the road is not far away at all. It's maybe, I would say, 20 meters from where we're sitting, and so it would have been easy to have spotted the leopard. That's where we would have driven, and the leopard would have just been here, and I'm 100% certain that this kill would have been taken up the tree at some point, and there's a beautiful big marula tree which I was hoping the leopard was going to get into when the Birminghams rushed in, because it could have grabbed that kill and maybe gone up in there, but alas, it dropped the kill and ran, which is probably for its own safety a much better idea, because we do know that the Birminghams are not males that won't climb. They do climb, and they can get up there. So probably for his own safety, it was better that he left it, but it would have just been nice to have kind of seen him up in the tree and see him go about things. And I think this is the same tree that Mvula used for his porcupine, actually. Angela, you're wondering if a leopard would ever steal a kill from the lions. Well, none of the leopards I've ever watched have been brave enough, but there is a leopard, and there is a video somewhere, I can't remember, it's somewhere on the internet, I'm sure some of you might be able to find it, of a leopard called the Chilunga male. Now, the Chilunga male is a male leopard down in the southern part of the Sabi Sands, around Kirkmans and that area. It lived on the Sand River, and he actually went in and tried to steal, and this is an amazing story, actually, because the Southern Pride was on a kill, and they were busy eating. I think it was a waterbuck, if I remember, or a kudu, one of the two of them. And they were in a little drainage line. And the lions were eating, and this leopard came along, saw the lions, and just watched them for a while. And then while the lions were feeding on the carcass, it's not like the lions had walked off and were lying down like this. The lions were feeding. This big male leopard just walked straight in and tried to get a sort of meal from this carcass. And as he walked in, of course, the lionesses did not take kindly to this, and they tried to fight with him, and they cornered him on the ground. And he then fought back with them, and he clawed and scraped his way to safety. How he got that right, I'm not quite sure, because the lionesses that were there were part of the Southern Pride, and one in particular, which is the floppy-eared lioness of the Southern Pride. She is quite something. She doesn't stand down for anyone, and this leopard was so feisty with all of these lionesses that they almost got kind of a shock, and maybe it was just his brazen nature that they kind of got him and grabbed him a little bit, and then him fighting back, they just left him alone, and he was able to actually sneak off and try and get out of the way. But he did actually take one bite of the carcass, which astounds me completely, and he was able to kind of, I suppose, scavenge from the lions, even though at the end of the day it didn't really work out that well for him. And surprisingly enough, he didn't actually die from that or any injuries or anything. He managed to survive, and subsequent to that became a lion cub killer. So he then started to kill lion cubs, and he managed, I think, to get 4 different cubs before he was actually eventually caught by one of the adult lionesses that was a mother of those cubs, and managed to then kill him himself. So quite a story that he's got, and quite a life he led, and that's the only leopard I know of that has been brazen enough to rush in while lions are feeding and try and get his own thing. So interesting behavior nonetheless, and it's amazing that and that's what the thing about leopard is, you just never know with them. They can be completely different animals when they want to be, and they can be really very, very, very secretive and sneaky, and then other times they can be completely brazen. So that's the best part about them, is that they just don't read books, and they are completely unique in each individual. They don't read books, no, there's no books printed in leopard language, unfortunately, Fergus. Maybe you should get onto that. So Fergus giving me make an audiobook, yes. Well, would it be a series of grunts and growls, or would it be actual language, Fergus? Leopard language, okay. Fergus reckons leopard language, so a series of grunts, roars, and saws. Now, Nikki's saying that she hopes that the vehicle in the background's guests can't hear the two of us and what we're on about. Well, they can hear us, and luckily for us, they are viewers that watch. So they are people that are very sort of, they watch Safari Live a lot, and so they are used to our antics and used to our nonsense that we speak half the time. So I think they're just smiling at the fact that we are talking about these things, but it is the way it is. Now, Lion seems to be completely out. I don't think he's going to move. Chris, you're asking, where are the lioness? Well, the Nkuhuma Pride, which is the pride that would dominate this particular area, we have no idea where they are at the moment. The last time they were seen was up in Manyaleti area. I had a track for a lioness yesterday going into Simambili with what looks like the cubs, the 2 small cubs. So I don't know if she's on that side and the rest of the pride is north. Difficult to say, but you must remember that with lions, you don't have a situation where the male lions are always with the females. So it's a misconception that there is a pride of females with the male lion. That's not always the case. The Birmingham males tend to spend a lot of their time as coalition members on their own, and then they join with the females when there's a female in estrus, when there's a kill that they can then scavenge off, or if there's a situation where they bump into those lions during the night, then they often follow them around. So that's the only times they really are actually with the lionesses. The lionesses tend to do their own thing and move around on their own and do what they want. And so I'm not sure where the Nhenha pride is. The Talamati pride was also seen recently, not far from Sydney's dam. It was about, I think, 4 or 5 days ago. They were on a buffalo kill, maybe actually a bit longer, maybe 7 days ago. So they've been around. Nhenha pride has kind of been in and out from Simambili and Manyeleti, Buffelshoek, that area. So they're around, and I'm sure the Birminghams know exactly where they are. It's just unfortunately it lies outside of our traverse, and that means that we can't obviously follow up on them and confirm where exactly they are at the moment. So interesting nonetheless, though. It's interesting how fluid the lion movement is and how territories have shifted and changed. And the Nhenha pride has gone from a sort of stable pride for us here on Djuma to an almost non-existent sort of sighting. Like I say, I can't even remember the last time I saw the Nhenhas. I don't really even know if I would recognize some of the sub-adults, because I'm sure they're much bigger than what they used to be. So it's an interesting thing how they've changed and moved. But the buffalo coming back and us seeing herds like we saw this morning starting to come back into this area is only going to bode really well for the lions for us here at Djuma. We're going to probably start seeing the lions a little more frequently as soon as we get more buffalo around. That's obviously the prey item that they like, and therefore we should get lucky and maybe we will have them around. Right. So, Proud Cat Mama and Cheryl, you're wondering when did this coalition form and how old are these lions? So, the coalition was formed in, well, I mean, they were litter mates, so they were born 6 years ago. So, when was that? That's what? 2011. So they were born in 2011, 3 of them. One of them was born in 2010, as far as I understand it. So Nhenha, which is the lion that we saw first, as far as I understand, and this is not confirmed and it's what is theorized, he's a little older, so he's 7, I think, or it's in Suku, one of the 2 of them is 7 years old, and then the other 3 are around 6. And so they were born into the same pride, they grew up together, and then as they were starting to become sexually mature, they were chased out by the dominant males in that area, and that's when they then stuck together, and that's how the coalition formed. Originally, there was 5 of them in this group, so the 5th one unfortunately died last year from a buffalo horn to the chest and lungs, from what the autopsy said, and unfortunately obviously didn't come right from that, and so it's now left the 4 of them. But I can't remember if it's in Suku or Nhenha. One of the 2 of them is the older one compared to the rest. The rest are slightly a year younger than, or just under a year younger than the older one, and I'm sure somebody can correct me as to which one it actually is. I know it's one of those 2. I think it's Nhenha, but I might be wrong. So that's basically the story of the Birminghams. They then came out of the Timbavati and down into the Sabi Sands in around 2014, I think was the first time that they were seen, or 2013 was the first time that they were here, late 2013, and then they obviously started to dominate from about 2015 is when they really started to become dominant in this area. Roxy Jazzy, you're asking, are there any of these male lions that have the dark black manes like that of the Lion King? Well, no, not really. So the lions here in this system, in the Kruger Park in the northern part of South Africa, don't typically get very black manes. We get kind of multicolored manes here, so there's a lot of darkness on them, as well as a lot of the blonde coloration that you see. Now, this particular male that we're looking at, he's called Nsuku, which means gold, and the reason he got that name is because his mane is a very blonde coloration. Some of his brothers or his coalition members, they are slightly darker, so Tinyo, which is one of the other males that was here, he's got a much darker, blacker mane than this. But normally our manes here are pretty multicolored. There is black, but there is a lot of blonde in them. The dark-maned male lions, so the very black-maned male lions, those are male lions that you'll see in the desert region. So in places like the Kalahari Desert, in Tosha in Namibia, even a little bit to some degree in Botswana, in Naipans and Bukharachadi, those areas you find that the lions tend to get much darker, blacker manes than what we see here. Up in East Africa, where Ralph is, some of those lions do have dark manes, but they tend to be pretty similar to ours here in that they've also got flushes of blonde. But there is a couple male lions on that side that do have those big black manes. But obviously in Disney, they've made it a little bit more kind of, I don't know what the word is for it, but a bit more sort of spruced up and are darker than what you would actually ever see on a lion in real life. There's no male lions that have complete black manes. All of them will have some little bit of blonde, and the black is not jet black all the time. There we go. So Philip, thank you very much. You say Nsuku is 7 years old, so it was one of the two. I always get them confused, but it's this male lion here is the older of the coalition, so he's 7 and the rest are all 6 around us. Now, I do see another male lion which I hadn't noticed for quite some time, who's just here on my left-hand side. I've just seen a paw flick up. I don't think we'll get any view with the camera, but it's just kind of a weird moment. I've been sitting here talking to you guys and didn't even notice that there was this leg that just popped up next to me on my left side. But like I said, I don't think Ferg will be able to see it. It's right behind a whole bunch of thickets and wattles and all kinds of other things, and I've got a small little gap from that area. Right, well, I think our lions are going to be pretty sedentary and probably not going to move very much. Sorry, Ferg, don't start with me, so Ferg is giving me trouble. But while we kind of sit here and see if they do wake up, let's go back across to Ralph. Well, I hope that you do find hidden treasures, Scotty D. You deserve it. You've been highly patient with Thandi over the last few days and have tried valiantly to find the den and to the cub and all of those kind of things. So I hope that Scotty gets something epic. Now you can see Nsuku's kind of put his head up and is now going to start feeding on the impala, and it is a big impala, so it's a big male impala, and boy, you can't fit any more, surely not. Maybe Nhenha's starting to come, and that's what's triggered him to stand up and sit over it like that. I'm not sure if Nhenha's somewhere behind us here, also in the area. Tinyo moved a bit closer and got growled at very quickly, and he's now kind of just stood up and, like I say, is kind of on the carcass itself. So I don't know if maybe, like I say, Nhenha is approaching from behind us and that's why he's got this defensive sort of attitude. I don't think he can fit anything more in him. He's like a little beach ball with his round tummy, and so it's not like he actually has space to put that impala. The interesting thing, though, is that it seems as though this impala is quite eaten. So this male leopard must have been here yesterday already, and I think, I mean, I can't see nicely how much of the carcass is gone. I can just see the horns and the front leg area, but if he was here yesterday, it's such a pity because I drove not far from here. We just didn't come down into this dip because I'm always so worried about signal in this area that I didn't actually check into this little dip, and we would have probably then found him, which would have been quite nice. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's the way things go. We were it's been spoiled with an epic sighting this morning. So I wonder if he is going to pick it up and maybe move it. I feel like it's almost like it's in the way for him a little bit, and he's trying to kind of sit where there's some shade. There we go. We're going to sleep on the carcass. So we're just going to further dominate everything and make sure that everybody knows that it's my impala. And so he's going to now sleep on its head perfectly in that direction. There we go. And that is as good as it gets. So now can be no argument as to who is actually the rightful owner of this impala. So, Gillian, you're wondering how many pounds of meat lions would eat if they were hungry after a kill. Well, you'd find in a male lion you'd probably be eating about 60 pounds worth of food, which is obviously quite a lot. So around 30 kilograms is what these male lions will put in. Sometimes a little more if they're hungry, sometimes as much as 40, but normally around 30 kilograms, so 60 pounds. 70 pounds would be about as much as they can eat, and then they are absolutely saturated. They're going to have a massive full tummy that is distended, and what you'll find then is that they kind of process that quite quickly. They actually digest meat quite fast, and as they're digesting, then they go back to the carcass and start to feed on it again and start to really try and kind of keep that stomach as full as possible. And the reason why they do that is because at the end of the day, they don't know when their next meal's going to come. So they'll sit and they'll feed and they'll gorge themselves and they'll go back and gorge themselves again, because at the end of the day, who knows, maybe as a male lion another coalition comes, chases them off, or a big clan of hyenas, and they then lose that carcass to themselves, well, to them, and they don't then get any more food. So it's important for them to absolutely saturate the space that they've got and really cram as much food in as possible. And it's pretty funny, this whole situation, because at the end of the day, I mean, he doesn't need this impala, but he will sit on it because the opportunity to take it was there, and he's then going to utilize it and try and get it. What amazes me, though, is that they've abandoned a buffalo to come and steal a little impala. So you would think that they would have rather just kept up with the buffalo and eaten that. that and left the impala to a leopard, but I suppose that's the way it goes. The other thing that is incredible, it just goes to show you how good the hearing is of a lion, because they came for water at Sydney's dam, and he must have heard that leopard feeding on this, and that's how he's come down and found it. And it's absolutely incredible how sensitive their hearing is. Of string, it depends on many different things. You'll find some days lions won't move at all, so these Birminghams, because they're so full, you might find tomorrow morning we come here and they're still here. Or you could have a situation that they get up and because there's another male lion that's calling, or there's females that they hear, or they pick up the scent of a female in estrus, they can then move 20-30 kilometers in a night. So I mean, in miles, that's 15 miles easily in a night. So it just depends on what's going on here in this area. And then the Birminghams themselves, they travel big distances. I know the other day one Birmingham went all the way from Nkoro into Manyeleti and then back down to Mala Mala and covered probably, I would say, close to 20 miles in a night. And so they can move a long way when they want to. If there's something that they're looking for, something that they're trying to kind of find then and trying to sort of dominate, then they will move those big distances. But when they're like this, you pretty much guarantee that they're not going to move too far during the night. And so he's just popped his head up now. I wonder if maybe something else is approaching. Like I said, no one's seen Nhenha since we lost him. He was coming this direction and he was moving in this way, but he kind of hasn't really shown up yet. The buffalo have all run away, and so I don't know if he's going to come and join these two individuals or if he's just maybe lay down somewhere in a thicket somewhere else. I'm unsure, but either way, something has just woken him up. Holly, you say that this lion looks like somebody who's just participated in a hot dog eating contest and just can't take anymore. Exactly, he does, doesn't he? He looks as though he's very uncomfortable. And his day is only going to get worse. It's a warm day today and there's not too much shade where he is. He's going to have to, at some point, relinquish his impala to maybe Tinyo if he wants to try and find shade. So it's going to be a hot, uncomfortable day if he wants to keep his prize, and he kind of just doesn't want to push the timeout button. He doesn't want to kind of admit defeat, so he's going to keep scoffing down his impala hot dog until it's gone. Mac, you're asking if has anyone ever heard a lion belch? I haven't. I've never heard them I've heard them cough and splutter and sometimes even kind of regurgitate stuff, but I've never actually heard them belching. So it comes out normally from the other side. They do that a lot, so particularly when they're full, and we can be glad that Mfumo is not here, because when Mfumo has eaten a lot, for some reason, that lion just loves to drop darts and pass wind, and it really is a smelly affair. And so I'm quite glad that he's not around, because it would be a lot more uncomfortable if he was here. But they do pass wind fairly regularly, particularly when they are distended the way that they are now. Right. Well, our Birminghams are still fairly relaxed and he's still kind of protecting his carcass. We're going to sit here a little longer, see if that leopard does come back or if Nhenha comes back. But while we do that, let's go across to Ralph and his tawny-coloured cats in the Masai Mara.